I want to play this clip here.
I mean, it doesn't fit a narrative. This is my most charitable reading. The narrative that they have pushed forward in the last 10 years is that there is a relentless assault against black people on behalf of white people. And the data does not show that. You brilliantly pointed this out in your program yesterday. In fact, it's the exact opposite. White individuals are actually more likely to be attacked, especially even per capita, by black individuals in this country. The narrative that they have tried to force feed this nation post 2020 is that we are a systemically racist country to our core. We started to say the word racist more. We started to redesign our corporations. We started to teach things in our classrooms that were from the 1619 Project. And all of this has now been met with an appropriate backlash where people said, we're actually not nearly as racist as you say we are. In fact, we're the least racist country ever to exist in the history of the world. And in fact, if you want to actually talk about race-focused activity, why is it that you then ignore all the race-focused activity of black on white crime? Well, I want to live in a race-neutral country. I don't like talking about race all the time. But when I see it, and I see the left ignore it, and we try to make them live up to their own standard of rules that they force-fed us during the chaos of 2020, it really goes to show the destruction that this can lead to the entire nation. And the final thing I'll say is this, Will, is that this is more than just a semantic argument. This is more than just whether or not it's a race thing or not. Bad policing practices, consent decrees, yes, opening up the prisons. As you say, $3.3 million is an outgrowth of a media narrative lie. So it's not just an innocent media narrative lie. Real policies get put into place when you don't challenge this nonsense in the public square.
That's it. That's very, very well said, Charlie. Race is a part of this story, not just because of the media's lies of omission. Race is a part of this story, not just because of the potential words from the suspect on the light rail in Charlotte. Race is a part of this story because of the policies implemented by a racial lie post-2020. Exactly right. And that's what we need to remember today. Right. These are a consequence of a lie that created policies. Charlie Kirk, well said, as always. Thank you.
Yeah. So, where does he get that number from that black people commit crime against white people at a higher rate?
That's what I was going to say. Like he said, more likely. Is more likely equal R or currently doing? Because more likely, based off his stats, then yeah, I could see it be more likely because he's saying that 50% of black people are in prison are black people. When we started, that wasn't it. So I'm like, I could see the statistic being more likely, but doesn't mean it's happening. Just because something is more likely doesn't mean it actually happens. And black people are usually not even in proximity to white people. Like I'm from PG County, Maryland. It's not a ton of, I mean, my neighborhood is some white people. It's a few Hispanics, it's a few Arabs, but it's majority black people. So I'm like, how could it be five? I don't know. I just don't feel like that's accurate.
Because he's playing mind games. He knows that black people are traumatized. Listen, I was speaking at an event like a year ago at a foundation, and we were talking. We would go to all the drug corners in Philly during the time when the drill was going on, the murder rate was up. We had a Hug the Block program, me and Umar Johnson's father, and we would go take over all the drug corners. And we got shot at a couple times, right? Back in 2021, 22, right? And I was speaking, I was kind of upset, and I was talking about what we need to do in our communities and everything. This black woman stood up, and she said emphatically, I don't care nothing about no white man. I hate you niggas. It's you niggas that killed both my sons. Wasn't no white man. So I learned something that day when talking to our people and how traumatized our people are. Now, the stuff that I talk about, she don't know anything about that. All she knows is 2 black people killed her sons. She don't know who's the culprit, who's creating the atmosphere for this stuff to happen, and who's benefiting economically. So Charlie knows this stuff. So he can come and speak in the manner in which he speaks, and people will say, yeah, I'm tired of these niggas too. Get these niggas, yeah, Charlie. So that when they hear Charlie speak this way, and they look around with no education or no problem solving skills. Like most of us in our communities, we don't have the knowledge of how to solve the problems of the black community. So Charlie can get away with this. If we had knowledge of how to solve our problems in our communities and knowledge of our history, this wouldn't work. Charlie knows he can get over with a lot of black people, especially young people that's traumatized with these statistics and stuff, because that's all that they see. They don't know anything else. They don't have any information to put up against what Charlie is saying. And that's why he can say the stuff that he says. So that's why that woman said what she said to me. So, and I learned the lesson that day. I had to revamp the way I give my information out to my people when I'm talking, because I had to realize just how traumatized we are. She said she hate us niggas. Her enemy wasn't the white man. And that was powerful. It was like, well, damn, you know what I'm saying?
But that isn't that because that's who she's living around. Listen,
Right.
I have, and the fact is that there are bad people, bad black people, bad white people. It doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't want to live around niggas. I don't. I don't. It's just I don't want to live around people with a certain type of mindset or behavior. So but I don't see black people
Messing with white people.
killing,
I don't
harming,
see it.
or
Yeah.
terrorizing white people. You can't take one or two incidents, because what happened in Charlotte on that train was just horrible. But to generalize it, the norm, that's not the norm.
And that's how you know it's not the norm, because when it is an incident, you see it everywhere. We saw with the Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf. That was everywhere, because it doesn't, from what I see, it doesn't happen that much. Because if it did, it would be on the news, because I'm gonna say it, that I think certain people want the racist feuding, so it can't, we're not even in proximity to white people like that for it to even
And
happen.
black people know better. Now, it may be things that happen every now and then, but for the most part, black people, listen, black people will go and shoot a corner and shoot 15 black people. 2 cops turn the corner, they'll drop them guns and run. It's a psychological warfare they got in your brain. They conditioned you to believe that they are. Well, I always tell you, white supremacy wasn't created for black people. It was created for white people. You're dominated by white power. But white supremacy was an ideology for white people to make them believe that they're superior to you. And they had to first dominate their own and then teach this stuff, right? So the thing is, because you're dominated by them so much, you start to acquiesce to this bullshit. You really believe this stuff. They socially engineer it to you from the time you were a child, right? You're watching Santa Claus, Superman, all the superheroes, everything associated with power and greatness and winning is white. When you go to school, they give you Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. What happened to them at the end of the story? What do you think they're giving you this stuff for? They're not giving you all the history of black inventors and black people that actually fought back and stuff like that, died at the end of the story, man. These are social engineering tactics. So like we understand the tactics of the wizards. Just understand something. If they say that the mother is the first teacher, right? That's what they always say. Mom's the first teacher. So the first teacher, right? And we know that slavery existed in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, right? Jim Crow, black codes, all these things. So if grandmama and big mama was, what was that white woman teaching her white son? To travel down so many generations. And she engineered and psychologically conditioned to see ourselves a certain way. 500 logically maintaining the ultimate deceiver and wizard. You're not going to beat this game. You're going to beat him and recognizing what he's doing from it. You got to separate your mind from it. He's been doing this shit for 500 years. Every time you think you're going to figure it out, he's just going to redo them. He does. So I'm just saying, it's what it is. If the one first teacher, then that white woman been teaching it to Kirk and all this stuff for years. It is what it is, man.
Well, I would say this. I would just say, based on the clip that we just watched, the entire premise, again, nuance. That's my favorite word, because I think it misses and they purposely leave it out because it debunks the entire system and ideology that their entire message is built on, right? So, because essentially what they're trying to say is that everything that came out of 2020 was a lie because it was white people bad. And that's not the messaging at all, right? That's the messaging that they want to tell their people. That was the messaging when it wasn't, right? The messaging was, we need to stop state-sponsored murder, right? Because even when he's talking about any incident, we all agree it can't be as prevalent as he's saying because of proximity and segregation and things of that nature. The bottom line is this: if and when a black person does anything against a white person, 9 times out of 10, they are going to go to jail. and they are going to face the fullest extent of the law. Now, when the state
Okay, I'm sorry.
executes a black person, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get away with it. That was the message. Not, oh, when white people do stuff to black people, that's bad, and we gotta address that directly. Now, when that does happen, it deserves to be addressed. But in most cases, it is addressed. Now we got to deal with, the justice system giving them a break because it's built into the crust anyway. But the bottom line is, we were talking about coming out of 2020, where a state-sponsored agent murdered George Floyd. We were talking about that. We were talking about the state murdering Black Americans and getting away with it. Not just all white people, but that is the grievance that they have to create, because they need a straw man. They need an enemy to deploy these talking points against. And that's why he's up there talking about, oh, everything was built on a lie. So everything that they look to put into place policy-wise was built on a lie and shouldn't be there. And that's the game that they're playing. They're switching out language. And he also said something too, and going back to another clip, again, this is the kind of, like I said, the game that they play. Because he said, hey, the same people that said it's racist to come up with a voter ID are the same people that's saying, hey, we need to document those of us that are tied to, the enslavement camps in the South. No, it's not the same people saying that. Because
you said that
the Democrat
at all. That's liberals. That's the liberal talking point.
The Democrat Party and liberals are saying that about voter ID. Black Americans are saying, hey, reparations is built on those of us that have answers and can document it. So this, like I said, these are the games that he plays, and that's why he kept trying to put that label on that young brother, even though the young brother was saying, like, no, I'm not a liberal. And so he even had to acquiesce and then say, well, let's just pretend that you are. Or also, let's look at the argument based on if you were a liberal, because that's what his talking point demands him to talk to. So when that doesn't happen, he has to create it, because without that created straw man, then all of his talking points start to fall by the wayside.
Right.
And it was a lot of white on white violence at these vigils. I don't know if y'all saw, but there was a Charlie Kirk, vigil, and a white liberal said F Charlie Kirk, and they jumped him and ran over the candles too. Like,
yeah, that's what. Here's the thing, though, because this means test. Okay, here's the thing, because white people get down. They're with the shits, especially amongst their own. They fight, they shoot at each other, they do a lot. But when you look at the media just portrays Black people are the only ones that do it. Yes, we have there's a lot of crime in Chicago and these New York, wherever, high urban populated areas and high poor areas, right? So because the correlation is poverty, the higher the poverty, the higher the crime rate. That's with any group. So there are a lot of white people who are poor, and there is a lot of crime, a lot of drugs, a lot of drug dealing, especially now because the fentanyl is like the new crack era, but it's really hitting white America the hardest. But it's never shown on television or media, social media or mainstream media. I want to play this last clip here, this quick clip. It's 27 seconds.
Shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. I mean, 4,000 Black men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
That's your explanation, but
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been
that affected
in the last 80 years.
The generational psyche of an entire group of people?
Well, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that.
So he was basically saying that you can't. Black people kind of had it better under Jim Crow and
this shows
slavery.
they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid.
So yeah, that part, they actually had it better.
But see, Dana. This is the thing. I'm gonna take this angle. He made my point. He said that in the 1940s. So let's look at the state of white America in the 1940s. Or from the 1900s leading up to the 1940s, right? They was killing each other at all time high, and they was killing us. See, this is the thing. She brought up about what they was doing to us, but she wasn't smart enough to articulate it in a way that would just wipe out what he just said. Because he's right. We wasn't killing each other, right? We was too busy worrying about being killed by y'all. We was too busy worrying about being discriminated by you guys, right? So no, and we wasn't up in these cities in large numbers. We were still in the Jim Crow South, right? While you was up in Chicago doing drive-bys with Tommy guns and selling your heroin and running your mafia plays and all this stuff. You know, this is what you guys were doing, right? But so she wasn't able to articulate it because of this again. The young sister, when she heard it, she got emotional a little bit because he triggered her. So she said her stuff, but she said it in an emotional way instead of staying calm, looking him right in the eye and just giving it right back the way he's giving it, right? And he's banking on her getting emotional because he knows we're traumatized. See, he's using strategy. He knows that we're traumatized people, and I can say some triggering things, right, to get you triggered. Now I got you. But this is the thing, right? This is gonna sting a little bit. Right. And in my videos, I have a lot of white people now saying a whole bunch of nasty stuff to me. But my response back to them is, listen, white on white violence killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's hate speeches is what the seeds that he planted is the seeds that created his undoing. His the very thing that he talked about single mothers and black on black crime. Unfortunately, right now, his wife is a single mother now because of the hate that he spoke that came back to his home. He created a single mother home and without the children because of the hate speech. The seeds that he planted came knocking at his door. That's what happened. And a lot of people are afraid to say it, but he was saying it about us. Let's tell the truth and shame the devil. His wife right now, unfortunately, is a single mother because of the hate that hate produced. And it was white on white violence that killed him. That's what killed him. Years and years and years and years of hate. And a man thinks the way he thinks of who he is. He created and brought this energy into his life. He created this universe by the rhetoric that he was spewing. So if you constantly spew that kind of rhetoric, if I carry a gun and I walk around with I wish a nigga would mentality, at some point a nigga's gonna be willing. Because I'm walking around with that kind of mentality. I'm creating that energy. So he created that. When he died, the moment before the bullet struck him, he said something about black gang violence. He said black gang bang. He died with those words in his mouth. So all I'm saying is, unfortunately, and I don't listen, I'm not celebrating his death or mourning his death. I'm indifferent. But his wife right now was mourning because of what he brought on himself with his words.
Dana with your data. Dana with the data.